This video is brought to you by MUBI, a curated streaming service showing exceptional films from around the globe. Get 1 month free at mubi.com/thediscardedimage. Persona starts with a projector getting fired up. A clear acknowledgement that we have started watching a movie. It's a destabilizing sequence that completely scrambles our expectations. Ingmar Bergman was a director who until then had been renowned for his existential dramas, contemplating life, death, and the spiritual crisis that results from God's silence.
Guds tystnad. Guds tystnad.
These characteristically weighty themes were, for the most part, told in a straightforward manner. Despite moments of surrealism, most of the films are rooted in old-fashioned storytelling. But in the 1960s, times were changing, most notably in France with the Nouvelle Vague, a rule-breaking movement that went against the invisible filmmaking of classical Hollywood, bringing about a self-consciousness that made the audience aware of their participation in the medium. Similarly, in Italy and elsewhere, directors were experimenting with the form, commenting on a post-war, fractured modern society. And Bergman went further, adopting this new language to explore the fractured nature of our psychological makeup. The film centers around an actor who is going through a crisis of identity. It's as if her time on the stage, adopting the persona of her characters, has made her self-conscious. To Elizabeth, everything she does feels fake and constructed. So she decides not to speak. But even that, as her doctor says, is a performance.
Jag tycker du ska hålla på med den här rollen tills den är färdigspelad. Tills den inte längre är intressant.
Besides the opening, the way the film is generally constructed makes you aware of the artificiality of filmmaking. One of the ways Bergman does this is with close-ups. Shots linger on an actor's face to the point where the line between character and performance is blurred. Here, what starts as an observational wide shot is interrupted by Elizabeth pointing her camera at the film's camera. Or for the reverse, an out-of-focus shot snaps into focus, and then reverts back to watching the character from a distance. Elizabeth's hospital room, vast and barren, is an exaggerated space that is contrasted with a TV that's playing horrific news footage of the Vietnamese Buddhist monk who set himself on fire. Here, Bergman isn't simply making a distinction between the film and real life. He's also highlighting the psychological effect of our private, isolated realities that are being bombarded with the terror of world events, with television only being commonplace in homes the decade prior. Similarly, later in the film, Elizabeth looks at a photo of a boy from the Warsaw Ghetto. As Bergman cuts into the images, they become more abstracted, reminiscent of Antonioni's Blow Up, a film that famously blurred the line between what was real and what wasn't. But it's not as though Bergman is questioning the photo's authenticity. Instead, he seems to be commenting on our capacity to both commit past atrocities and how we process that history. It's hard to truly confront how barbaric humanity is capable of being. So how do we compartmentalize that knowledge? And how does it change us? Every technique I've mentioned so far creates a dichotomy in the viewing experience. We're seeing things on two planes. This is par for the course considering the film's central theme, duality. Persona's dual protagonists are two women who, as the film goes on, appear to merge. Though at the start of the film, Bergman makes efforts to contrast them. Alma is a nurse. Her job is to care for others. Whereas Elizabeth, as an actor, feeds off the adulation of the crowd. Alma seems to be in an almost unconscious state, unburdened by the introspection that has crippled Elizabeth.
Jag gifter mig med Karl-Henrik och vi får ett par barn som jag ska uppfostra. Allt det där är bestämt, det finns inne i mig.
Though since her patient is mute, Alma for once in her life does all the talking and ends up digging into the recesses of her own psyche, going into detail about a group sex experience from her past.
Så drog han sig ur henne och så föll han över mig alldeles hårt. Så tog han tag i mitt ena bröst. Oj, varför gjorde det så ont?
She reveals in herself a duality that is present in all of us. The conflict between primal sexual desire and the emotional, more spiritual connection in our relationships.
Det stämmer ju inte. Det hänger inte ihop någonting. Och så får man dåligt samvete för små saker.
Later, when the woman's personalities truly start to merge, we have this scene where Elizabeth is foregrounded, whilst in the background Alma has an encounter with Elizabeth's husband, who could just as easily be hers. And the composition changes until only half of Elizabeth's face is visible. Bergman frequently shoots only one side of a character's face, a motif that signals their eventual split and merge. When the husband first appears, Alma's response is ambiguous.
Herr Fågler, jag är inte er hustru.
This could be meant literally, but it also relates to Elizabeth's dislocation from the relationship.
Nej, var inte så ängslig men älskade. Vi har ju varann.
In another film, this kind of romantic gesture could be euphoric, a turnaround.
Jag lever av din ömhet.
But Persona is not a film that is capable of such a conventional scene, because Elizabeth does not feel like a conventional woman. We find this out when she is told about her son, which in the spirit of duality plays out twice.
Du önskar att barnet skulle vara dött. Du önskar att barnet skulle vara dött.
On one side we have Alma, a woman who felt ashamed of her sexual desire, and on the other, a woman unable to deal with what drives that desire, the need to procreate. It also seems like her son was what actually drew Elizabeth to the photo of the boy. Perhaps Bergman is suggesting that the detachment this mother felt towards her son is comparable to the cold brutality of Nazi officers towards the Jewish people. It's this detachment that triggered Alma in the first place and shook her out of her unconscious state. She felt betrayed and exposed when the person who appeared to compassionately listen to her mentioned her hidden desires to her husband in a letter. Like a vampire, it's as if Elizabeth was trying to absorb Alma. As though she were a subject she was trying to mine for a role. It was similar to the way Alma was treated by a man she was having an affair with.
På något sätt så var det aldrig riktigt verkligt. Jag vet inte hur jag ska säga. Åtminstone var jag aldrig riktigt verklig för honom.
She may not have been a real person to Elizabeth either, because like an actor, the feeling she appeared to have could just be an affectation. A recurring visual motif in the film is the use of translucent curtains to suggest the walls that make up our personas. Characters are playing roles and wearing masks. But when those masks crack, they tear down the protective barriers and invariably dissolve, unleashing our primal, violent nature. And Bergman's approach to the material tries to replicate that feeling with its stark and unvarnished filmmaking. Despite all the self-conscious elements, paradoxically, Persona is, up until that point, Bergman's most intimate, naturalistic film. He attempted to tear down the proscenium arch that was more apparent in the staging of films like The Seventh Seal. Yet by doing that, he risks getting lost in the mysteries of our subconscious. Despite my attempts to deconstruct the film, it is arguably his most confounding. Getting a concrete grip on the film's meaning is as elusive as the character's grip on reality. Ingmar Bergman is one of the giants of European cinema, and as I mentioned in the video, he was one of many directors reinventing the medium throughout the 1960s. Directors like Bergman, as well as Federico Fellini, Jean-Luc Godard, and Bernardo Bertolucci, are all the types of filmmakers this video sponsor MUBI showcases on their streaming platform. And over in the US, in the MUBI library, you can check out my favourite Bertolucci film, The Conformist, about a Mussolini fascist who travels to Paris on a secret mission. It's a stunningly designed political thriller shot by Vittorio Storaro, who also lensed Apocalypse Now, and is now part of MUBI's 70s Masterpieces selection. Every day, MUBI premieres a new film, from timeless classics to cult favourites and acclaimed masterpieces. So if you're looking for new films to explore and want to deepen your knowledge of cinema, then I highly recommend you check them out. You can try MUBI free for 30 days at mubi.com/thediscardedimage and get a whole month of great cinema for free.